I should have known something was off when she packed that damn nurse's uniform. Not her usual scrubs, the one she wore during double shifts at County General, but a fresh, crisp set. Pristine white. Still creased from the packaging like it had never seen a single patient. And then the kicker, the protective gear. Face shield. Boot covers. Medical-grade gloves. Tossed in like props in some high school stage play titled The Hero Nurse. She was going on a business trip, she said. COVID relief assignment upstate. Temporary, just a week, maybe two. Hospital understaffed. They needed her. No time to talk. Bags already packed. She didn't make eye contact when she said it. Just sipped her suitcase and kissed my cheek like a stranger would. But I didn't say anything. I watched her from the hallway as she told her sister over speakerphone, loud, careless, maybe cocky. My husband is so vanilla, she said, with a fake little laugh. But my boss? He's spicy. Real spicy. I still didn't say anything. I went to the closet, pulled out a pen, wrote 6 words on a sticky note. I attached it to the nurse's uniform in the side pocket of her suitcase, the one I knew she'd reach for first when she arrived. Congratulations on the promotion. I'm gone. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't rage. I didn't even cry. I just sat there in our bedroom, my bedroom, now with the weight of 10 years of loyalty pressing down on my chest like a steel beam. And the next morning, I got to work. See, I'm not a violent man. Never have been. But what I lack in fury, I make up for in foresight. I'm not a screamer, I'm a planner. And lucky for me, I'm also a systems analyst who dabbles in machine learning on weekends. That weekend, I became something else entirely. I opened up an old project I'd been playing with image synthesis via adversarial networks. Basically, AI image generation. Realistic. Deepfake level. Just a hobby, until now. I fed it photos of her. Dozens. Our wedding photos. Vacation selfies. Hospital events. Her badge photo. A Christmas party snapshot with him, the boss. That smug bastard with the gold tie and the wandering eyes. Then I set the scene. A hotel bed. Crumpled sheets. Her lying there, half-dressed in the hero nurse uniform. Him beside her, naked, grinning, hand on her thigh. The output was perfect. Uncanny. Disturbing. Even to me. It didn't matter whether it was true. Truth hadn't stopped her. Caption? Caught in 4K. My wife, my traitor. I posted it anonymously to a forum that loves dirt. Tagged her name. Tagged his. Set it loose like a disease. Then I walked away. Or at least, I tried to. The fallout? Nuclear. Within 24 hours, his name was trending on Twitter. A few more hours, and the hospital had suspended impending investigation. But it didn't stop there. Because that little spicy boss of hers wasn't just cheating with nurses, he was also cheating Medicare. Tax fraud. Prescription kickbacks. Investigators had been circling for months. My post? It wasn't a bomb. It was the detonator. He got sentenced. 30 years in federal prison. They brought him out in cuffs, face red, sweat dripping, still protesting that it was all AI. No one cared. And her? The silence was louder than any scream. Her phone stopped buzzing. Her friends stopped calling. Her sister, the same one she gossiped to? Radio silence. Family dinners? Canceled. Birthday invites? Ghosted. I watched her life collapse in slow motion, and I didn't lift a single finger to stop it. Her family, oh, her family, they begged me. Begged me to take it down. Said it was cruel. Said it was beneath me. They were right. I didn't. She didn't come home to an empty house. She came home to an empty life. Everything looked the same on the outside. The porch light was on. The lawn was freshly mowed. The fridge still hummed in the kitchen. But the feeling? Off. Like walking into a wax museum version of your own home. Familiar, but soulless. I was already gone by then, 2 states away, staying with an old army buddy who owed me a favor and didn't ask questions. I'd left her enough to survive for a month, 2 max. Not out of kindness, but strategy. There's a power in watching someone slowly realize you're not coming back. She called, of course. 18 times. Then 43. Then none at all. The silence told me everything I needed to know. But I wasn't interested in hearing her voice anymore. I was too busy watching the collapse. You know how fire doesn't just destroy a house? It peels back the layers. Exposes everything hidden beneath. The rotted wood. The termite infestations. The cracks in the foundation. She was the house. Her promotion unraveled in days. Turns out, when your boss is hauled off in cuffs and the internet is plastered with photos of your affair, The hospital has some concerns about your moral integrity. The board issued a formal review. She got placed on administrative leave, pending investigation. That's code for, we're gonna fire you, but we need legal cover first. The irony? She never even got a raise. The so-called business trip was a cover. Just a hotel weekend with her spicy executive and a room service menu they probably didn't even bother to read. My note, the one I left in her suitcase, went viral. Someone snapped a photo of it and uploaded it to Reddit. Congratulations on the promotion. I'm gone. People printed it on t-shirts. Turned it into memes. Called me the last gentleman. I wasn't proud, but I wasn't sorry either. Her sister reached out eventually. Texted me a 3-paragraph sob story trying to explain her behavior. Said she wasn't thinking clearly, that she got lost in the fantasy. Fantasy? What is this? A Netflix original? I replied with a single word. Received. She didn't message again. And her parents? The ones who used to greet me with big, fake smiles and tell me how lucky she was to have a loyal husband? Yeah, they showed up in my inbox too. Begged me to take the photo down. Said it had ruined her reputation. Said she was being cyberbullied. Imagine that. The woman who threw away 10 years of partnership for a weekend thrill was suddenly crying about her dignity. Let me tell you something. She didn't lose her dignity when I exposed her. She lost it when she traded commitment for convenience. You see, betrayal is never about the act, it's about the choice. You choose to hide, to lie, to cheat. And when you get caught, it's not a tragedy. It's the bill finally coming due. So no, I didn't take it down. The fallout spread fast, like a wildfire that only smolders at first and then erupts when you least expect it. In the days following the explosion of that post, everything shifted, and not in a way that would bring redemption or closure. No, it stirred a pot of bitter reckoning that left both of us hollow. I wasn't one to dwell on the past for too long. I believed in making clean breaks, a sort of ritual purging of old ties to make way for something new. But as I sat in a cheap motel room 2 states away, far from the buzz of my old life, the reality of what I'd set in motion weighed heavily on me. Every news alert, every shared post, every angry comment in the digital ether felt like a reminder, a countdown clock marking the end of the chapter we once called us. Social media morphed into a battlefield. Strangers took pleasure in dissecting every detail of our marriage, our choices. They pounced on every misstep, every guilty smile. I scrolled through heated comment threads where some called me a hero for finally putting a stop to the charade, while others branded me a cold-blooded villain. But to me, the truth was never so black and white. It was a mix of calculated calm and a storm of raw vengeance, a delicate balance that had been meticulously planned. Vengeance isn't blind rage. It's a cold ledger where every betrayal is tallied and every lie gets its due. In the middle of this digital chaos, I began the long process of disentangling myself completely from her life. I wasn't just walking away emotionally, I was severing the practical threads that had kept me tied to her world. I changed my phone number. I blocked her from every social network we'd once shared. I even started a new email address. Anonymity was key if you wanted to vanish without a trace in modern times. Even her promotion started to unravel beyond the initial shock. The hospital's board wasn't bluffing. Their investigation dug deeper, revealing layers of mismanagement and backdoor deals. Yet, nothing landed on her as hard as what I had exposed online. The pressure was too much. Professional accolades and future prospects evaporated like fog in the morning sun. And yet, every so often, a whisper would surface, a rumor in the corridors of former colleagues, about how she was working to fix her reputation, as if reputation was something that could be mended with desperate smiles at coffee meetings. Meanwhile, I found solace in the quiet of anonymity. I started working on projects I had long neglected, projects that once filled me with joy before the weight of betrayal had turned everything sterile and painful. I dove into an old coding project, something creative and brilliant that I'd shelved in favor of the daily grind. The more I immersed myself in it, the more I realized that revenge, though sweet in the moment, was only a stopgap solution for the deeper wounds inside. Friends began reaching out, not with pity or scorn, just factual updates. They talked about jobs, new beginnings, even new loves. A couple of old comrades from my past life invited me for a drink, a chance to reconnect with a life that wasn't defined by someone else's missteps. I hesitated at first, still raw and still calculating, but eventually, I relented. Perhaps in those brief, intoxicated conversations, I could let myself remember who I was before all this happened. Someone who believed in building something lasting, not just tearing down another person's world. But there was no turning back for her. The evidence I posted had been archived, shared, and memorialized in the digital age. Every time I saw a headline about the sentencing of her lover or a snide tweet about vanilla husbands, I felt a flicker of grim satisfaction, a reminder that in our world, betrayal comes at a cost, a price you pay eventually, sometimes in prison, sometimes in shattered lives. I wasn't naive enough to think that all the scars would fade overnight. The echo of our past still haunted me, a broken record that played in moments of silence. Sometimes, I'd catch myself recalling the warm mornings we once shared, the lazy evenings when trust was the only currency in our relationship. But those memories became a bittersweet mixture of nostalgia and self-reproach, a reminder that I had once chosen to believe in a fairy tale that turned out to be a carefully orchestrated illusion. I learned that vengeance, however meticulously planned, never fills the void left by betrayal. It merely changes the shape of that void, leaving you with an emptiness that no amount of digital justice can cure. I was moving on, piece by piece, thread by thread, yet part of me wondered if I'd ever fully escape the shadow of what had happened. I'd engineered my departure with precision, but the journey to reclaim my dignity was far from over. Even now, as I type these words in a quiet bar miles away from where my former life lay crumbling, I remind myself that sometimes letting go means embracing the scars. Each one tells the story of a man who once loved, who once was betrayed, but who now stands resolute, determined to never allow the past to define him again. You'd be surprised how many people disappear without really leaving. They sit in the same meetings. They answer the same calls. They smile at the same jokes. But they're gone. Checked out. Drifting ghosts walking through the wreckage of something they used to care about. That's how I felt during those last few months, before everything blew up. But after I left her with nothing but a viral scandal and a 6-word goodbye, I didn't disappear, I evaporated. And I made damn sure there was no trail for her to follow. She tried, of course. Her first email came 3 days after the photo went viral. The subject line was blank. The body said, "I made a mistake. Please talk to me." I didn't reply. She sent another. "You don't understand what he meant to me. It wasn't just about you. It was me, too. No kidding." Another. "I'm being harassed. People at work, online, even friends. You have to take the post down." I read that one twice. Not because I considered it, but because of the phrasing. "You have to." As if I owed her something. As if I hadn't spent the last 3 years enabling her ambitions while she rolled around in hotel sheets with her spicy boss. I paid the bills. Showed up to her family functions. Smiled through the pain while she fed me lies and late-night excuses. And now that the truth finally saw daylight, now I was the villain? Her therapist. Yes, she brought a therapist into this, sent me a message through some legal channel. It was riddled with buzzwords. Emotional harm, retaliation, defamation. Said I was damaging her mental health. They never once mentioned the damage she'd done to mine. I didn't flinch. I didn't even reply. Let them send what they want. I knew what lines I'd crossed. And more importantly, I knew which ones I hadn't. I crafted that AI image carefully. Real enough to burn, ambiguous enough to be art. That's the beauty of modern tech. Truth is no longer what actually happened. It's what people believe happened. And trust me, they believed. But the real work wasn't done yet. While she scrambled to salvage the shredded remains of her career, I was stitching together a new identity. Quiet. Clean. I cashed out of our joint accounts the week before I dropped the bomb. Bought a cabin in the mountains under an LLC I'd set up years ago for investment purposes. Smart money moves. You learn that when you realize love won't always protect you, but a lawyer and a hidden savings account might. The best part? I still had access to her calendar. She never changed the password. Never thought to. She always assumed I was too dull, too vanilla, to go snooping. But guess what, sweetheart? Vanilla doesn't mean stupid. It means stable, reliable. The guy who takes the hits, pays the mortgage, and lets you play pretend on weekends. But everyone has a threshold. You just never imagine mine. I watched her meetings change, therapy appointments, HR hearings, a sad Zoom call titled PR Strategy, Damage Control. She was unraveling in real time, and all I did was sip whiskey and scroll. I never messaged her, never taunted her, never gloated. That's what made it worse. Because silence? It's heavier than shouting. It lingers longer than rage. And when someone betrays you, truly betrays you, they want a response. Even anger means you're still tethered to them somehow. But nothing? Nothing is a death sentence. Her friends dropped off one by one. Those polished brunch companions who used to toast mimosas and roll their eyes when I asked her to come home early? Gone. Turns out, nothing kills a social life faster than being the woman from the photo. That image lived on every gossip site, every meme page. And even though she cried deep fake until her throat went dry, no one cared. No one believed her. Truth was no longer relevant. Only shame. And shame, that's permanent. The last email she ever sent me had no body. Just a subject line. You've destroyed me. I didn't open it. By the time her last email came in, you've destroyed me, I had already deleted the account she used to contact me. I let her words vanish into the void, just like the marriage she'd set on fire. But I wasn't angry anymore. Anger burns hot. It's loud. It needs an audience. But this is what I felt now. It was cold. Measured. Like a scalpel instead of a sledgehammer. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was just done pretending she didn't deserve the consequences. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the ones you hand the knife to. And she wielded that knife like a scalpel, too. Slowly, quietly, while smiling at me across candlelit dinners and asking if I remembered to pick up almond milk. It wasn't one betrayal. It was death by 1,000 little omissions. The late nights. The hushed calls. The evasive glances. The way she stopped laughing at my jokes. Not because they weren't funny, but because they no longer mattered to her. She thought she was untouchable. Untouchable in her white coat and hospital badge. In her little cliques. In the fantasy of the double life she curated behind my back. She thought I'd never look past the surface. That I'd stay tethered to my vanilla box like a good husband while she soaked in the adrenaline of her spicy side dish. Let me tell you something about vanilla. It's the base for every flavor. You can stack your sprinkles and your syrup and your sparkly distractions on top of it. But when it all melts, guess what's still there? Me. The man who paid the mortgage. Fixed the leaky sink. Picked her up from urgent care when she sprained her wrist and still cried over the floor like a child. I was there, even when she wasn't. So no, I didn't destroy her. She did. I just set up the mirror. The fallout from the arrest was still rumbling through the industry. Her boss, the spicy one, was now inmate #48291-7 at a federal correctional institution. Medicare fraud. Prescription racketeering. At least 3 whistleblowers came forward once the scandal broke. Guess who helped 2 of them anonymously reach out? Yeah, Vanilla strikes again. His wife filed for divorce before the ink on the indictment dried. Their kids? Pulled out of school and sent to live with her sister on the coast. Everything he built crumbled. All because he underestimated a man who didn't shout. And my ex? She became radioactive. Untouchable. That once pristine image of the model nurse, shattered beyond repair. No hospital wanted her name on their payroll. No charity wanted her face in their press kits. Even the yoga studio she used to post about every week dropped her from the mailing list. Brutal. The last photo I saw of her floated up on a Facebook group I didn't even follow anymore. She was sitting alone on a park bench, face downcast, dark circles under her eyes. No caption, just a tag. Does anyone know her? I didn't laugh. I didn't gloat. I just stared at it for a moment, then clicked away. Because by then, I had already moved on. I'd found a new place, one that didn't reek of lies and lavender perfume. It wasn't glamorous, just a small house near the woods, quiet enough that you could hear yourself think. And in that silence, I started to rebuild, not my image, not my reputation, but something far more important. My self-respect. I started writing again, something I hadn't done in years. I'd forgotten how much I missed the honesty of the page. Pages don't cheat on you. They don't lie. They wait, blank and silent, until you bleed something real onto them. I found comfort in that. It reminded me that I still had stories to tell that weren't rooted in pain. And maybe, just maybe, one day, I'll tell someone new those stories over coffee. Someone who sees me not as a placeholder or a backup plan, but as a man with scars and steel and standards. Someone who understands that vanilla isn't a flavor you settle for. It's the one you trust when all the others melt. People think rock bottom is loud. Screaming, crying, throwing plates. Maybe a dramatic breakdown in a Target parking lot. But the truth? It's quiet. Rock bottom is the sound of your own breath in an empty house. It's a dinner plate scraped clean, alone. It's a phone that doesn't ring. A bed that stays cold. And for her, it was the silence she never saw coming, the echo chamber she built around herself. I know because I watched it happen. You see, I never shut the door all the way. Not from the internet, anyway. Call it curiosity. Call it caution. But I left just enough open to see what she'd do once the walls closed in. At first, she tried spin. Told friends it was a revenge stunt, that I doctored the photo out of jealousy. Claimed she was a victim of AI manipulation. Gaslit them the same way she tried to gaslight me. But it didn't land, not this time. Because the story wasn't just the photo. It was the way it felt true. The way it fit her like a glove. She was always just a little too charming. A little too curated. Her Instagram grid was perfect. A highlight reel of brunches, sunset jogs, smiling selfies, hospital galas. The kind of woman who says, "I'm so blessed," right after she knifes someone in the back. And when that image cracked, there was nothing underneath. No substance. No humility. Just shock. Outrage. As if the world owed her belief simply because she said she didn't do it. But the internet doesn't deal in mercy. It deals in receipts. The thread of her lies unraveled. Former coworkers started sharing their stories. A nurse who caught her texting in the medication room. A janitor who saw her slip out the back door with him, the boss. Even her old college roommate chimed in. She always had a thing for men in power, the girl wrote. I warned her fiancé once, but I guess he never got the message. Oh, I got the message. I just opened it too late. Her sister, the one who used to giggle with her about how boring I was, radio silent, completely scrubbed her own social media, probably out of self-preservation. Cowards scatter when the fire gets too close. And her parents? They went from "please take the photo down" to "we never approved of what she did." Backpedaling like Olympic sprinters. I guess when the dinner invites stop and the neighbors stop waving, suddenly moral clarity shows up like an overdue bill. But here's the part they all missed. I never wanted to destroy her. I wanted her to see herself. Truly. Not in the mirror. Not in selfies. But in the eyes of everyone she deceived. To see what I saw. That night she zipped up her suitcase, laughed with her sister, and called me vanilla like I was some disposable appliance. Because that was the moment I knew. I didn't lose a wife. I lost the illusion of one. The real her? She packed her dignity next to the lace underwear and left it in that hotel room, tangled in bedsheets that didn't belong to either of us. Meanwhile, I stayed silent. Let the internet do what it does best. It had no agenda. No need for revenge. It just magnified what was already there. And you know what I learned? The worst punishment isn't hate. It's indifference. I didn't need to text her. Didn't need to scream. She already knew. Every time she logged in and saw her name trending, every time another friend unfollowed her, every time someone whispered her name in public, she knew. She had taken a man who would have given her the world and taught him how to live without her. She tried writing me a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A real one. Ink on paper. Blue ballpoint, folded twice, and slid into a plain envelope with no return address, like a confession that didn't want to be answered. It arrived a week after her last pathetic email, tucked between utility bills and a flyer for gutter cleaning. The handwriting hit me first. Still that perfect, practiced cursive she used when addressing birthday cards, writing thank you notes to my mother, or scribbling to-do lists with a little heart above the I in milk. I stared at it for a long time before I opened it. I didn't expect remorse. What I got was a performance. I know you hate me. I don't blame you. I think I started hating myself before you ever found out. But he made me feel seen, and I got drunk on it. You were always safe. Always good. But safe felt invisible. And I needed to feel wanted. That's not your fault. It's mine. I just thought you should know that. No apology. No ownership. Just a soft, eloquent excuse for burning down a man's life because she was bored of being loved without drama. I folded the letter once, twice, and dropped it in the trash without ceremony. There was no return address because she didn't want an answer. She just wanted to exist in my mind again. To pull focus. To be mourned. She didn't deserve a second of grief. Because here's the truth she never grasped. I was never invisible. I was just consistent. And some people are so addicted to chaos, they mistake peace for apathy and mistake volatility for passion. She'd fallen in love with drama, not depth. And he'd given her all the sparks and none of the spine. A spicy fantasy with a federal indictment on the side. I'd spoken to a divorce attorney already, smart guy, quiet demeanor, came recommended by someone who'd walked the same battlefield. We went over everything. Joint assets, already cleared, property division, easy. I left her the house, and the final signature. You really want to leave her with everything? He asked. I nodded. I want her to know what silence sounds like when there's no one left to blame. He leaned back, smirked like a man who'd seen the same play with 100 different casts. You're not just walking away, he said. You're letting the wreckage speak for you. Exactly. Let the house be her monument. Let the once shared bed creak a little too loud. Let the echo of footsteps in an empty kitchen remind her that she killed her own comfort and buried her own future. I wasn't taking revenge anymore. I was taking peace. And peace? It looks an awful lot like a quiet man who stops answering. Meanwhile, I started fresh. I moved into a place with bare walls, open windows, and no ghosts. I bought a coffee maker that only brews 1 cup at a time. No need for 2 mugs anymore. I traded our king-sized bed for a firm twin, not out of bitterness, but because I sleep better now. Funny how clarity works. Every time I'd ignored a red flag, she painted it white. She turned warning signs into wallpaper. Said all the right things with all the wrong intentions. And I let it slide, because I thought love meant forgiveness on credit. Never again. Now I notice everything. I trust my gut the way I used to trust her. And I keep my circle tight. Men who've walked through the same fire. Men who've seen betrayal not as a wound, but as a revelation. You don't really know someone until they think they've gotten away with it. She thought she had. Now she knows better. There's a strange kind of grief that comes with betrayal. It's not the grief of losing someone to death. There's no casket, no funeral, no tear-streaked eulogy. No, it's worse. Because betrayal means the person you lost is still walking around, breathing, smiling, pretending nothing happened. They just died to you. I held that funeral in my mind the day I signed the divorce papers. No friends. No ceremony. Just a pen scratching across paper and a notary who didn't even look me in the eye. I walked out of that office not broken, not even bruised. Just light. Lighter than I'd felt in years. Because when the mask finally falls, there's no need to mourn what was never real. Her name didn't sting anymore. It didn't carry weight. It was just a file folder now, closed and sealed with legal ink. A chapter finished. Not forgotten, but finished. And that was enough. What came next wasn't revenge. It was renewal. I went through my old things, our wedding album, the vacation photos, the handwritten anniversary notes we used to exchange like teenagers. I didn't burn them. That's too dramatic. Fire always screams for attention. I wanted silence. So I boxed them all up. Labeled it. Lies. Pretty ones. Taped it shut. Stored it at the very back of a storage unit I'll probably never visit again. Out of sight. Out of reach. Right where she belongs. I started focusing on myself again. My body. My mind. My work. She once said I was boring. I turned that into a blueprint. No distractions. No drama. Just purpose. I got back in shape. Rebuilt a few friendships I'd let drift while trying to patch the hole in a sinking ship. I even went on a couple dates, not serious, not yet. Just enough to remind myself that I wasn't broken. I wasn't bitter. I was available. Not desperate. Not angry. Available. And very, very awake. One of them asked about my ex. I told her the truth. She lied. She cheated. I let her bury herself. She blinked. You don't sound mad. I said. But then I realized she was a mirror. She just showed me what I needed to fix. And what I needed to leave behind. That earned me a nod. And a second date. You see, the funny thing about betrayal is, it strips you down. All the fluff, the excuses, the comfortable delusions, gone. What you're left with is the bones of who you are. And I liked what I found underneath. I'm not flashy. Not charming in the slick tie and scripted joke way. But I'm solid. Grounded. The kind of man who doesn't forget anniversaries, who notices when you're hurting even when you smile. The kind who listens more than he talks. The kind who stays when things get hard. Until you give him a reason not to. And once that line is crossed, there's no return. I didn't leave her for another woman. I left her for myself. For the man I used to be before I was made small, silenced, turned into a placeholder while she played nurse by day, mistress by night. Now I wake up with no lies in my bed. No secrets in my house. No lipstick-stained coffee mugs that aren't mine. Just peace. And the quiet satisfaction that while she built her world on fiction, I built mine on fact. It took exactly 6 weeks before I stopped looking over my shoulder. 6 weeks of instinctively expecting another message. Another letter. A voicemail, maybe. Something desperate. Something stupid. Some last-ditch plea for attention or sympathy. It never came. Turns out, shame does what no confrontation ever could. It silences people. And after the internet lit her up like a Christmas tree in hell, she got quiet. Too quiet. Which was fine by me. I didn't need an apology, I needed her absence. And silence? That was the only thing she had left to give. Word eventually got back to me through one of those friends who says they're out of the loop, but somehow always knows everything. Apparently, she was living in a one-bedroom apartment over a nail salon, working shifts at a small private clinic with no benefits, no PTO, and no prestige. The glow-up she used to brag about? Gone. Her LinkedIn scrubbed. Her Instagram locked. Her name, a ghost in Google's search cache. She was surviving, but barely. And me? I wasn't surviving, I was living. Funny how a man who's been called vanilla can suddenly feel like the rarest spice on earth when he's no longer being boiled in someone else's drama. I'd made peace with the fact that I'd probably never fully trust anyone the same way again. Not blind trust. That died with the ring I left in the drawer of the guest bathroom before I walked out for good. But trust with conditions? With eyes open? That's different. I'd started building again. Not a relationship, not yet. But a life. I fixed up a classic truck I'd left rusting in my dad's garage for years. It used to be the project I always promised I'd get to someday. That was the lie I told myself when I was too busy making excuses for her. Now someday was every Saturday morning. Grease under my fingernails. Country rock on the radio. Nobody asking me where I was. Nobody trying to make me feel guilty for staying grounded while they chased sparks. And the best part? I could finally breathe. No games. No performance. No more walking on eggshells in a house I helped pay for, just to avoid upsetting a woman who had already checked out. I learned something in all that quiet. You don't realize how loud betrayal is until it's gone. It hums. It buzzes. It itches behind your ribs. And once it's cut out, all that's left is this stillness that feels holy. Sometimes I'd sit outside on the porch with a beer in my hand and just exist. The sky didn't care what I'd lost. The stars didn't need to know who cheated on who. They were just there constant. Silent. Honest. The way love's supposed to be. I wasn't perfect. I had scars. I had nights when the bitterness tried to creep in again, when I remembered her laugh, or the way she used to dance barefoot in the kitchen before it all turned to poison. But I never reached for her. Not once. Because I knew the difference now between love and loyalty. One is a feeling. The other is a choice. She wanted love without loyalty, and I gave her the rope to hang herself with. She'll spend the rest of her life blaming everyone else for the noose. Not my problem. Revenge is overrated. Yeah, I said it. People imagine it's all drama and fire, some righteous explosion where the villain gets what they deserve and the hero walks away in slow motion. But the truth? It's quieter than that. It's patient, surgical, cold. Real revenge doesn't look like shouting. It looks like indifference. It looks like success they can't touch. It looks like living better, not because you're trying to prove something, but because they no longer matter. That was the lesson I learned the hard way, and I mastered it. By month 3, I'd build a business from scratch. Something small, manageable, remote. Consulting work, mostly helping small clinics optimize their IT infrastructure, clean up data pipelines, cut costs. All the stuff her hospital used to rely on guys like me to fix, when I was the one backing her, building her spreadsheets at midnight while she was off texting him. Now, they paid me directly. Not her clinic, no. That bridge was already ash. But I got wind of one of her old colleagues, someone who'd always been nice to me, starting their own practice. She reached out. We had coffee. Not a date. Just two people swapping notes about surviving the system. I always knew you were the one with the brains, she said, sipping her cappuccino. She was loud, flashy, always running on someone else's fire. I didn't comment. I didn't have to. She hired me a week later. And when I logged into the company system to set up their secure servers, I saw her name still listed as a pending applicant. Guess she tried to find a lifeline somewhere familiar. I deleted the entry. Quietly. No announcement. She never got a call back. Funny how that works. See, I didn't need to burn her life down. She was already doing that just fine. All I had to do was stop shielding her from the heat. People like her thrive when they're protected. When someone else does damage control. When the consequences never quite land. But I was done being the firewall. I moved my money, closed the joint accounts, cleaned up the credit reports, filed the last taxes under single status. I even updated my will, no trace of her name left. Not as a contact, not as a beneficiary. Nothing. It was like she never existed. Meanwhile, her digital ghost kept stumbling across what I'd become. She couldn't block it, It was too public, too shared. Friends who used to be our friends started tagging me in photos again, congratulating me on the new project, the truck restoration, the cabin remodel. One even commented, "Glad to see you out of that mess. You were always the real one." She had to see it, and I didn't even need to reply. Let her stew in it. Because the moment she laughed and said I was vanilla, she didn't just insult my taste. She revealed hers. And now? Now she was neck-deep in the bitter taste of her own recipe. Her spicy boss? Serving time. Her social circle? Gone. Her career? A cautionary tale whispered in nurses' lounges and whispered about in HR offices. And me? I was thriving. Not despite her. Not to show her. But because I mattered again. Because I stopped bleeding for someone who wouldn't offer a bandage. And now I was rebuilding brick by brick, with my own hands, with no permission needed, and no ghosts watching from the doorway. She showed up. Yeah, she showed up. No warning. No text. Just her standing at the edge of my new gravel driveway like a ghost that forgot how to disappear. I spotted her from the window, same coat, same boots she used to wear when she thought appearances made the woman. But her shoulders were hunched now, hair pulled back in a way that said she didn't have time to care, or didn't see the point anymore. I stood there, behind the curtain, holding a coffee I no longer needed. She didn't knock. She just waited. Like maybe I'd opened the door out of curiosity, or pity, or nostalgia. She'd underestimated me one final time. 5 minutes passed. 10. She looked around at the porch swing, the firewood stacked neatly against the wall, the wind chimes made of driftwood and rusted copper. She didn't recognize any of it. That was the point. This wasn't her life anymore. Eventually, she took out her phone, typed something, waited. Nothing. My phone buzzed from the counter. Please. That's all it said. No name. No context. Just that one word, hanging in the air like cigarette smoke, stale and desperate. I didn't move. Because the man I used to be? He'd have opened that door. He'd have let her explain. He'd have listened to her voice crack and maybe, felt sorry for her. But that man was dead. The guy standing at the window? He buried the old version of himself the day she laughed and called him vanilla while zipping up a suitcase packed with betrayal. After 20 minutes, she gave up. Walked back to her car. No drama. No screaming. No tears. Just silence. It was the only honest thing she'd ever given me. When her car pulled out of the driveway, I sat back down, picked up my coffee, and let the quiet settle back in like a trusted friend. The wind rustled the trees. The sun stretched across the porch. And somewhere in the distance, a bird chirped, oblivious to the funeral that had just happened without a single word exchanged. And that's when I realized something. She wasn't looking for forgiveness. She was looking for relief. From shame. From silence. From the weight of knowing she'd been replaced by something better. Peace. And that's the one thing I'll never give her. Because what she destroyed wasn't just a marriage, it was a man who believed in her. A man who would have gone to war for her. And she sold that man out for hotel sheets and a man in a tie who's now rotting behind bars. She chose flash over foundation. Fantasy over facts. And now she's haunted by her own decisions. That's not my burden. I don't carry her mistakes anymore. I don't carry her anymore.